Did you know that 40% of marriages in the United States end in divorce? How does divorce impact our children? What should parents say when telling their child about the divorce? How can we make sure our children don't think they are to blame? And what are normal reactions for children to separation and divorce? Join us today as I interview Marie Yvette Seltz, a professional counselor. We'll discuss divorce in our children. This is Kay Meyer, president of Family Shield Ministries, and your host for today's program. Welcome, Yvette. Thanks for being my guest today.
Oh, my pleasure.
Well, when we talked about a topic, you suggested this topic of divorce in our children, and I thought it was a great topic. Mm-hmm. We've been on the air for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. We've done programs on single parenting and just about, I always say, almost any topic ever we've done, but we have not done a program specifically on divorce in our children. Why is it so important to you?
Well, it's very, very important to me for a number of reasons. Personally, I actually come from a family that was divorced. I come from a family who's experienced divorce at every level, from all the way from great-grandparents to grandparents. And I know the damage that it does for not just the parents, but also the children, and as that damage moves forward. Also, another reason is because professionally, and as I've learned through the studies, I know that the family is the foundation of our community. It's the foundation of everything. And so if we do not keep strong families, if we continue to have divorce rates like we do now, and unfortunately, we have the same divorce rates in the church as we have in our culture.
Yes, we do.
And what used to be, it used to be stigmatized. It's no longer the case. We now have any reason can be sufficient for getting a divorce. So whenever you have that kind of morality not being upheld anymore, when you have that kind of stigma being removed and nobody feels compelled to keep a commitment anymore, you have that very foundation breaking down, and you see it just imploding all over the way that it does in society. You see the children, the outcome with the children being lost and what's happening. So I think strengthening and helping people, even when divorce is happening, to understand how we can help the children is important.
Good. How old were you when your parents divorced?
When they actually had the final divorce, I was about 13, but they had been separated for some time. So I was kind of in a limbo. And that's important also, I think, for people to understand the damage that happens even before the divorce takes place, the way that divorce is handled, how it can be drawn out. Because during the whole time before, during, and after, the children, depending on what age they are in, they will always feel it. And depending on the stage, they will be more aware of certain things than others. But they never ever stop fantasizing that the parents are going to fix it and that they're going to get together.
Yeah, good. So just starting with some of the basics, how does divorce impact children? Let's talk for a minute about young children, because I guess it impacts them in different ways depending on their age. Would that be correct?
That is correct. It really does. And studies after study after study has shown that. Depending on what ages that the parents start, having tension and the children start realizing about the tension, and then they actually do have the divorce. If the child is very, very young, like you said, that is a time when they are developing their, first of all, before I start saying that, the family unit, the parents together and the family unit is a scaffolding upon which psychological development, physical development, emotional development, cognitive development is all built. So whenever children are very young, they're in the stage of trying to create trust. And you know how we always look at little 2-year-olds and toddlers that are starting to walk. They'll go just a little distance, come back and be next to the caregiver, the primary caregiver. And then they'll go a little bit further and they'll come back. They'll start venturing out a little by a little. But whenever you're that young and the family breaks down, everything is fractured and mistrust comes right away. And they don't know, they don't have the verbiage.
They don't understand it.
No.
And they can't communicate
No.
Yeah.
And they'll often regress and go back to behaving even younger than they were before. And that urge and that urgency to get that mistrust. I mean, that mistrust to turn back into trust again.
Right. And there's so many different issues, but separation is one of the major issues.
Yes.
Their dad or their mom is not going to be there like he or she used to be, not as often anyway.
Right, and they'll often blame themselves.
Oh,
they'll think
do.
that they are to blame, or they've done something naughty or something that was the parent that caused the parent to go away.
Right, and that is very typical that children think it's their fault. I don't think that's an age issue, other than maybe when they're babies. Most children of divorced parents seem to think the divorce was somehow their fault.
And they also feel the need to mend it. They feel that there's something that they can do to bring the parents back together. And as they go on into adolescence, we'll also see how that impacts gender differences also come into play at that point, because the children need their parents at different times a little bit differently. The girls in particular, as they hit puberty early on, need to have a great relationship with their father. Mm-hmm. They really need to have a great relationship with their father. This is when they get a sense of value of themselves, a sense of femininity, of being cared for. Later on, 16, 17, 18, is whenever the boys really need their fathers. Mm-hmm. And what happens after divorce is sometimes, and it's typical actually, is even really committed fathers before the divorce suddenly become kind of uncles afterwards, and they do what the court mandates every other weekend, holidays, every other holiday, and they don't take an active daily interest in the child. Mm-hmm. And that's critical. That's very, very important.
So let's go back. What should parents do when they know a divorce is coming? How should they communicate that to their child? And what are some of the things they need to help the child understand?
Well, first of all, always consider the age appropriate discussion to have. Because if you have to divide the children up to have the discussion, then please do it. Because you cannot expect a 2-year-old to understand something that you're saying that only maybe a 13-year-old can understand. So always come from a point of sin. You want to talk about sin and not being perfect. And do tell them we still love you. Both of us love you. Mm-hmm. You don't have to choose between one of us or the other. We both love you. And yes, we're doing this, and we are sorry, and we don't mean to hurt you. Mm-hmm. Always say that even though this is happening, that our greatest protector is God, and that He loves them even as much as I love you, and God loves you even more, and He has you even now. So it's important to communicate that to them, because sin is in this world. They see us as perfect, but we're not perfect. Mm-hmm. We're not. Nobody is, and demonstrating that to them, that you are sad for it, because even no matter how good our explanation is, the child will feel that that they are being sacrificed for the parents' happiness, and that is not going to be something that is going to necessarily be expressed by the child to the parent. And it's at that point, because sometimes children, whenever they're told, they're in a state of shock. And they don't know how to respond. They've never been in this place before. Right. And so to talk to one parent about it, if maybe that parent they've seen that person has cried more, but if they don't want that person to not be happy, they feel
so they're hiding their feelings
very much.
And they really need to grieve the separation,
very much so. And they need to be allowed to do that. Do many divorced parents have their children in counseling? Not as much as they should be. And I love that you asked that question, because that's one of the best things that we can do. Years ago, people started saying this statement, and I'm sure you've heard it before: children are resilient. Yes. Children are resilient. And it's so not true. We say that to make ourselves feel better, or we say it because studies show that girls after divorce tend to fare better academically and emotionally than boys do. But the truth of it is that they don't fare well. They just aren't allowed to express it or don't know how to express it. And so one of the best things that churches can do, or that parents can do, is to help their children to feel that they're not the only ones in this position, and to show them that how to discuss these things with their parents and not to feel guilty. Because what ends up happening, and it always happens and never goes away, Kay, is that especially with a court-mandated 50-50 back and forth, is a child enters this parent's, environment, and they feel a need to have protection, and they yearn for connection. So what they'll do sometimes is they will behave in a way or say something that makes them feel like they're betraying the other parent. And that sense of betrayal continues to grow as they continue to try to bond with one parent when they go one place, and they continue to feel that they're betraying the other parent. So there's this tension, and there's this huge divide that happens with both parents. And what ends up happening is later on we have this what we call a sleeper effect. So 5, 10, 15 years down the road, when they are coming into a time of wanting to get married, all of a sudden all of these feelings and emotions surface, and they are frightened, and they have anxiety, and they push away commitment, and they push away relationships because they don't want to revisit those feelings again.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the research, Wallenstein's study. I don't know if you're
she's
familiar
huge.
with it.
25 years.
She followed these children for 25 years, and that instead of getting better, many of them still had the same problems and the relationship problems as adults. Was part of that. So that was very surprising to me.
Extremely.
And I guess there's been many studies that have shown that.
Yes, and I teach university courses, and one of the courses that I teach, I actually have this as a unit where we talk about the effects of divorce on children. And the students are invited to visit 4 different studies on this, so they can see that, this is not a small thing. This is a societal problem. And it's something that the churches really need to address a little bit better, too, as well.
Absolutely. Well, what can parents do, or how can they learn to become alert to signs of distress in their children? Anger, anxiety, and maybe even mild depression, which I'm sure does surround divorce. What do they need to watch for?
Well, academics is always one of the first things. Children will typically not be able to concentrate at school. They'll be fantasizing about things or having anxiety, because when you think about divorce, all of a sudden a child's whole world has been turned upside down. And they live in a sense of time that's not, it's so different from adults, right? So now they don't see that this is maybe a temporary situation, that it can get better. So their present and their future is doomed. It's just doomed. So when you think about academically, if they start to go down, or they stop socializing, or they become a little defiant, or shut themselves off and isolate themselves into their room, stop talking, those are little things. But we shouldn't really wait that long. I believe as soon as parents realize they're going to get a divorce, get the children into either group therapy with other children that are age, and make sure you find one that's the same age appropriate, it's group, so that children can learn that they're not going through this alone. Or if you family therapy with both parents present, so they can learn how to also communicate well and not put children in the center. So these are some of the things I think as soon as parents know that this is the route they have chosen to go into, they need to protect their children, and they need to give them the tools to be able to navigate through this in a way that's going to do the least amount of harm.
Good. We're going to come back after I make a few announcements and continue talking about divorce in children. Today, Family Shield is giving away Beyond Divorce and Finding Peace. To request your free booklet, call the Family Shield Response Center at 1-877-250-8416 or email us at witness2family@gmail.com. Don't forget, if you email us, to give us your complete name and address. Why not consider putting Family Shield Ministry into your will or estate? We have brochures from the LCMS Foundation that explain numerous ways you can do this. Most people want to give the majority of their estate to their family, but many also put a favorite nonprofit ministry into their estate to receive 2, 3, 4, or 5% of it. For more information, contact your lawyer or let us connect you to an LCMS Foundation counselor that specializes in estate planning. Another way you can give a gift to us is through your IRAs. The IRS now allows individuals 70 and a half years of age and older to transfer their required minimum distribution directly to a charity and avoid paying the income tax. If you have questions about using your IRA to make a gift, contact your lawyer, CPA, or again, a representative of the LCMS Foundation. We also encourage you to share a message, a prayer request, or a donation to support Family Shield Ministries program, which is aired on 53 radio stations throughout the United States. Send your messages to Family Shield Ministries, P.O. Box 230015, St. Louis, Missouri 63123. You can also reach us on Facebook or, again, email us at witness2family@gmail.com. Now I want to go back to our program with Marie Yvette Seltz. And we also want to learn just a little bit right now about the counseling service that she has, Candescent Counseling, Coaching, and Consulting. The website is www.cccc4cs-usa.org. Tell us a little bit about your work with the counseling.
Oh, my goodness. Well, in regards to the topic today, and this is what I'm most passionate about, actually, is relationship coaching, relationship counseling. Also, group support and psychoeducational groups for people that are going to get divorced or are divorced, to help them to heal and to understand the dynamics that are at play and to be able to make things a little lighter. Because when we think about, Kay, about all the feelings that go into divorce, I mean, you can name so many. There's guilt, there's shame, there's anger, there's fear, there's loneliness, there's rejection, there's all kinds. When parents are feeling that, children are feeling that times 10. Yeah. And they can't even express it. And they don't have the tools that we have because we've lived so much longer.
Right.
So my job is to do that.
When I think going back to the topic, divorce and children, which is what you just said, adults have a lot more ability to learn to cope than children do. And the issue is, if they don't get to talk about it, they don't want to talk about it with their mom because it might hurt her. They don't want to talk about it with their dad because it might hurt him. Mm-hmm. They need someone to share how they really feel. Otherwise, they're repressing these feelings. And they always say that, if you don't get it out, then you get depressed.
You do.
And children can get depressed.
Oh, absolutely.
Just like anyone else. But I want to also switch to another part of this, and that is how many parents going through divorce argue and fight, not just when the child isn't around, but especially when the child is around. What kind of damage, what kind of problems occur for the child when the mom and dad fight constantly and use the child kind of in the middle of it?
Oh, that's so damaging. First of all, the child feels a sense of hopelessness. They can't do anything. They feel powerless. And often, and I'm actually very appreciative that you brought up putting the child in the middle to communicate. Sometimes because the child is going to one home to the other. Well, you tell him I said this, or you tell her I said that, or send that child support. The child should never, ever, ever be put in the middle of any situation like that.
They are, though.
They
often.
are, yes. And parents need to allow children to be innocent, allow children to love both parents, and not put them in any kind of position where they're witnessing conflict, tension, hearing the mother or father talk about the tension or the spouse and the issues that they have with them. They should never, ever, ever, ever speak ill of the other parent in any way. Ever, even if they feel it's justified. Sometimes, and I hate to say it, sometimes parents feel like, well, I'm going to hurt the other spouse by really telling my child what that person did. I want
my child to hate their father. That's the
Correct.
worst
It's
thing
the worst thing
anyone could ever do because it hurts the child.
It hurts the child primarily, and it's doing so much damage just to make you feel better at the moment. It's going to continue to move forward because, first of all, that child was born from this individual. Oh, yeah. So everything you're saying about this individual, the child perceives you saying it about them. So you can't say things like that. You have to work to be very protective of the child. If you have to speak poorly, go to counseling for yourself.
Yeah, and probably that would help a whole lot of parents that have gotten a divorce, because they want to speak to someone about that too. A counselor would be so much better
important
than using their child. I think a lot of times, especially for children that might be closer to teenage years. I have two nieces. My sister, her husband got a divorce when they were 12 and 13. And it's a very challenging time. But why is it, Yvette, that parents don't think divorce affects their children? Isn't that pretty much across the board what you hear?
Yes, you do. And sometimes I think, especially at that age that you just mentioned, which I happen to be at that age too, they believe that you're aware of what's going on, and that, you know, that you're obviously, it's rational. I mean, that you can see the reason why this would be happening. And children never want to see that. I mean, you can be arguing right in front of their face, and they still are hoping you're going to end it in an embrace. So looking at the age again, whenever you're arguing, where is that child of what's happening, it's going to create damage. It's not will it, it will.
It will.
It will. So you have to be intentionally protective. You never stop being a mother. A father never stops being a father. And again, at that age, 12, 13, 14 for girls, really need their daddies every day to be really aware of what's going on. And the child should feel like, I don't need to wait till next weekend to see my dad and talk to him. My daddy's always calling me. I know I'm going to talk to him tomorrow, and I'm going to be able to talk to him about what's bothering me. Yeah.
Well, I think another issue that often, once there is a divorce, then there is a remarriage. There are step-grandparents, step-parents, going to two churches, as we've talked about sin.
Yes.
You know, the child no longer just has one church. The child has two churches. And sometimes they are not at all the same.
No,
maybe it would
different.
be Roman Catholic and Presbyterian, but it might be Muslim and Catholic. It isn't all. It might be one doesn't go to church at all, and the other goes regularly. Just talk for a minute about some of those challenges.
Well, it all represents splitting, doesn't it? Everything is splitting the child again. And the child already feels that they've been compromised and they've been sacrificed for the happiness of the parent. And you're continuing to put them in this position where they're having to, if the spouse chooses another. See, that's another thing. If the mother chooses a spouse that is another denomination other than what the child was before, they're just, again, validating what the child is feeling, that they've been sacrificed for the parent's happiness. So this splitting back and forth, it's very, the child may not say it to you, but this is because they desperately want your love and they want that connection with you. So they're going to do whatever they have to do. Even though they may act out later on, you may see that coming out, especially with boys. Boys will do that. Very angry with the mother. And it's, we'll tend to say, oh, they're bad boys or they're this, but it's all because of these things we're doing that we're not aware of. So whenever you create another family, you go in and you marry another, first of all, it's not ideal. So it's important that the new spouse is someone that the child actually connects with, and that they make the effort to connect with the child. It's not the child's responsibility to connect with that new person. It's the adult's responsibility to connect. And not only the responsibility, that this is something they ought to do. They really need to do this if they're making a commitment to that child's parent. They need to make that connection. Grandparents need to welcome this child in also. The child's it's not going to be comfortable no matter what. It's not what the child wants. But you have to make it has to be something that is intentional. You have to try very hard and be deliberate about welcoming this child into the family.
Early on, you talked about when you talk to the child, let them know sin exists in the world and that we are not perfect. We sin. And divorce is a result often of sins in both parents' lives. Just issues. Nobody knows why. There's many, many reasons why divorce happens. But to come back as we kind of conclude the program to talk a little bit about the importance of what we try to do on this program to help people that listen to know Christ and to grow in His Word. Just touch a little bit on our faith in Christ and
Yes.
why it's so important.
And I'm glad we're ending with this because this is the most important of all.
It is.
It is the most important. If you weren't doing it before, first of all, you want to continue. There's so much more we can talk about on this, but I guess, first of all, if keeping as much stability as you can for the child is important. And one of those things that helps to stabilize that is the union that the child and the connection the child feels with the parents. So both parents need to make a commitment to constantly pray with their children.
Good.
Constantly pray with the children and ask for healing of the Holy Spirit, forgiveness of Christ, and to constantly reaffirm the fact, and it is a fact, that Christ loves them more than anything else in this world. They will always, even though the parents have failed them, and the parents have failed them, Christ will not, and he has not, and the victory is won, and they can heal, and they are not tainted, and they are not defective. They are still perfect in him. And we need to verify that over and over and keep that prayer time going and that time of church going, not just going to church, because that's not enough. Prayer time, talking about it, inviting the Holy Spirit to come into the heart to heal. That is critical.
Okay. Very good. It's so important that we also help the parents understand that they too are forgiven for anything
Absolutely.
that they did that was wrong, because sometimes the divorce happens, and then down the road they realize, maybe I should have worked a little harder to make this marriage
That's
work.
typical.
It does happen. Our time is just about up. I just want to reintroduce my guest, Marie Yvette Seltz, and Candescent Counseling, Coaching, and Consulting is the ministry that she works with. If you'd like to learn more about Family Shield Ministries, go to our website at www.FamilyShieldMinistries.com. I want to just reiterate what she just said at the end, and that is we need to pray with our children. We need to pray with our spouses. And we need to ask the Lord to forgive us every day.
Yes.
He's there waiting for us, and he will forgive us.
Yes.
I'm glad you listened today. Thank you so much, and we invite you to join us again next time. This is Kay Meyer with Family Shield.
You've been listening to Family Shield, a production of Family Shield Ministries. Its mission is to educate and equip people through the power of the gospel to know Christ, grow in His Word, and to strengthen individuals and their families. To learn how you can obtain resources or support the ministry, go to www.FamilyShieldMinistries.com or write Family Shield Ministries, P.O. Box 230015, St. Louis, Missouri 63123. And tune in again next week for Family Shield.